we can make just simple observations about nature because, you know, the earth is revealed to us, so we can look at it and see. And one of the things that we see is that nature just constantly gets more complicated over time. And environmental elements are always in motion, always changing. This is the physical foundation of where the revelation begins. The emphasis is not so much on what the earth is made of, but what it's doing, right? It's sunshine today, it's lovely, you know. If it was raining, then it would be different, but it would still be doing that, right? We could all come in here and dry off, because my lecture is the driest thing I've ever heard. You could be led to conclude on the basis of an observation like that, that, you know, life is the flash of a firefly in the night. It is the breath of the buffalo in the wintertime. It's the little shadow which runs across the grass and loses itself in the sunset. This quotation is spoken by this man, Crowfoot, the orator of the Blackfoot Confederacy. This was his deathbed saying. This was his very last words. After he had led his people through mass migrations, through poverty, through the end of the buffalo hunt, the signing of Treaty No. 7 with the Dominion of Canada, which created the province of Alberta, and other things like that. This is a first deep truth of what the environment, what the earth reveals to us, that it's always on the move. And there's some sense, though, in which those changes are kind of regular and predictable, such as seasonal variations, cycles of growth and decay. So we have to account for the apparent orderliness in nature. And the ancient use of the word nature, probably right up until Rousseau, the word nature meant something orderly. It meant something that was a constituent of a predictable system. We use the word nature in that sense when we say something like human nature. But we also use the word nature to refer to the ecology around us too. Anyway, the word nature has often been associated with order. And that's why you've got living beings which sleep and then wake and then they sleep again, their hearts beat. In the larger scope of life, they grow and then they decay and then new things grow up again. This is a cycle, this is a rhythm, that's the order. So this could be like a second principle of what the environment reveals to us. So the ancient Greek philosopher Heraclitus said, you know, the same thing is both living and dead. Is he there? Yeah, the same thing is both living and dead, and the waking and the sleeping, and the young and the old. For these things transformed are those, and those things transformed back again are these. You know? Everything's in motion. Nothing is still. Another one of Heraclitus' famous. And this is such an elementary idea that it can occur to anybody, anywhere. All they have to do is look. So several centuries later, in an entire ocean away, Black Elk tells us exactly the same thing. He says, you've noticed that everything an Indian does is in a circle, and that it is because the power of the world always works in circles, and everything tries to be round. Even the seasons form a great circle in their changing, always coming back again to where they were. See, the sacredness of cycles. You know? Our teepees were round like the nests of birds, and these were always set in a circle, the nation's hoop, a nest of many nests where the Great Spirit meant for us to hatch our children. So what makes all this happen? How is this possible? Well, certainly for those who would look upon this with a spiritual way of thinking, they might think there's some kind of force or power behind all of it. And I'd like to just use the word energy to describe that. It's a word that has many, many meanings, and here I take it to mean just the force or power which enables movement or change to happen. You know, scientists define the word energy just as the ability to do work. So it could be electricity, but it could also just be momentum, or it could be atomic radiation. It can mean all the little chemical reactions that take place inside the cells of your muscles that enable you to, you know, not fall over in your chairs right now. That's all energy. No being sustains or perpetuates itself with its own energy alone. Whenever we inhale, air from the surrounding environment comes in. You know, when we exhale, it goes out again. It joins with the atmosphere of our earth. Same with when we eat. Same with when we go have a crap. You know, our bodies are constantly transferring energy in and out. Our bodies are like a kind of transformation station for energy. It starts with the sun. The energy, light and heat and radiation comes down, is picked up by the plants, and then they transfer it up the food chain to the top predators, and then when those animals die, they return it to the soil or to whatever carnivore ate them. You know? So the world is a kind of gigantic fountain of energy in motion, and everything's on the move. And there's lots and lots of spiritual traditions that have given names to this energy. So I'm going to name drop a few of them. There's Qi from Chinese philosophy. The word meaning vital breath or subtle force. There's fire, one of the 4 classical elements. I've got it here the way Heraclitus meant it, you know. The world is this ever-living fire, being kindled in measures, being extinguished in measures. Electricity. And this might surprise you. The Chinese philosopher Tang Su Tang referred to electricity as something that's supremely refined and subtle, which makes everything adhere, penetrates everything, connects everything, so that all is permeated by it. Electricity is not confined to space, for there is nothing which it does not integrate, and nothing it does not penetrate. It's electricity, you know, a measurable force, a scientifically observable, quantifiable force, here being given a kind of spiritual significance. The Force, well, just because I was a Star Wars fan when I was a kid, so I threw that one in there as well. Many of you, I suppose, may already know some of the rest of these. Arenda is an Ojibwe word. Baraka is the word sometimes used by Sufis. This is Irish, Bri agus Bua, energy which is like potential energy, energy that's waiting to be used, and energy which you see happening. And this just means Bri agus Bua. The serpent Kundalini Shakti, which is the serpent that the Tantrikas say is coiled up on your base chakra, and then when you get excited about something, it uncoils part of the way. You know, by music, by dance, by dancing, singing, feasting, making music and love. You know. And every musician knows the one on the bottom of the list there. You know, this is energy. This is a good groove. This is a blank page. Right, well, among environmental biologists, people don't often talk about the environment quite this way, in part because it can sound as if you're being merely new agey and flaky, and no one really quite knows how to take this seriously. What I have in mind is in part a material force, but there's also a kind of a psychological association as well, because it's the same energy which I think is powering your ability to speak and to think, and that's where we communicate not just material elements for the maintenance of a biological function, but that's also how we communicate our thoughts, ideas as well, how we communicate the presence of our identities. So I can also look at it from some scientific point of view. So here's one scientist who I studied, Harold Morowitz was his name. He says that you can't think of a living being as a stable, you know, discrete structure, like a block of wood or a clay brick. Rather, it's more like a dissipative structure. He says, it does not endure in and of itself, but only as a result of a continual flow of energy through the system. Consider a vortex in a stream of flowing water. The vortex is a structure made of an ever-changing group of water molecules. It does not exist as an entity in the classic Western sense. It exists only because the flow of water through the stream. From this point of view, the reality of individuals is problematic because they do not exist per se, but only as local perturbations in this universal energy flow. So the idea is that the Earth is one gigantic pool of energy constantly in motion, and we are all just little transformation stations along the way. And so the energy which, in this place, has taken form as me, as my body and my words as I speak to you, and my thoughts and my presence to myself, is the same energy which, over there, has taken the form of my brother Kieran. Hi. And out there has taken the form of a tree, and over there has taken the form of a bird. You know, it's the same pool of energy, always in motion. And this idea of a grand, you know, extended self, a deepening of the self, has been part of some of the world's most ancient spiritual ideas for centuries, and especially including the wisdom of indigenous people. So the Okanogans of Western Canada, for instance, they say that the physical self is just one part of the whole self that depends entirely upon parts of us that exist beyond the skin. We survive within our skin and inside the rest of our vast external selves.